Welcome to the Business Edge, brought to you by Technologies Now, where we help businesses use AI, automation, and smart client acquisition systems to streamline operations, capture more opportunities, and grow with less friction. Today's episode is a broker's perspective, and I'm joined by Bianca Baca, a San Francisco real estate professional who has built her business around relationships, local knowledge, and telling a better story about the city that she serves. She is one of the most fascinating real estate, excuse me, and one of the most fascinating real estate markets that was smooth across the country. And well, I'm going to start that part over. I'm going to cut the middle out. I don't know where I
No
went with
worries.
that piece of it. I have like cliff notes up on this. Bianca works in one of the most fascinating real estate markets in the country, alongside one of San Francisco's remaining independent brokerages. And she's stepping into a bigger media role as a host for America Dream TV, showcasing lifestyle, culture, neighborhoods, and businesses that make San Francisco worth talking about. Bianca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that was a good intro because I know
Yeah,
everyone's
no, I appreciate it.
pretty excited about this now. So I set the bar pretty high. So I hope this goes really well for us here today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Well, let's do this. Let's start from the beginning. Not the beginning, but let's go back in time, and then we'll kind of figure out your story from here. You can tell it, and we can interject and kind of take it where it needs to go here. But when you were in eighth grade, did you expect to be doing real estate or anything like this?
I didn't even expect to be doing real estate when I was in college.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Only a handful of people that I've ever talked to said yes, real estate, and that was only because of their family background, right? So they were
Right.
family of realtors, and they were going to get into that field no matter what. That was just going to be kind of inevitable.
It
But
just streamlines in there.
oh yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's like 1-2% of people we talk to, had that path. Usually, it's a meandering path. So let's start on your path. Was it a meandering path to get into real estate?
A lot of twists and turns. I feel like I'm someone who likes to try on careers every 10 years. I wouldn't necessarily advise it for everyone, but
Okay.
it's for sure brought me to my success today. I'm a big yes person. So opportunities that come up that you never really dreamed of, I tend to say yes to them. And so my avenues went from the sciences to fashion, business ownership and corporate, and now, back to business ownership in a completely different avenue of real estate.
Interesting. So what have you learned along the way that you bring with you to your current role?
I mean, no matter what industry we are in the business of relationships, especially in a sales focused role, but I think even
Mhm.
more so, in a position that you aren't selling face to face with customers, we're still in the business of relationships. People like to hire people they trust. They like to work with people they want to be friends with or they can get along with. I don't know if I've ever talked to someone that, in matter what they describe someone they're working with, it follows, I don't like this person, but I'm still going to pay them, kind of situation.
Right. No, that doesn't work. You gotta get to isn't the standard know, like, and trust? They have to know
Exactly.
you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you for any important decisions, in their world. You don't have to know, like, and trust your person who's selling you your car. I'm not trying to dig on people that, sell cars, but, it's more of
You
a
definitely still have
transaction.
to trust them.
You want to trust them.
You want to. Yeah.
Yes, you definitely want to trust them and hope that if it's, of course, a used car or whatever the car is, it's a good fit and not a problem, but interesting. So know, like, and trust in real estate. What does that mean to you?
For me, it's people hire me because of the transparency I provide in a transaction. You mentioned San Francisco being
Mm.
one of the most fascinating places for real estate, and that's so true. I mean, for such a small town, we're 7 by 7 square foot. Most people drive hours. Most real estate agents outside of California or even in other cities, they drive hours as, what they represent as far as cities. I'm in a small 7 by 7 radius for the most part, and we have thousands of real estate agents in San Francisco.
Right.
Thousands.
Yes.
Competition is abundant, but it's, the top 1% of those thousands that are actually doing consistent business. So it's the idea of presenting yourself as a local expert, but at the same time, I don't personally feel like my next door real estate agent is my competition,
Okay.
which doesn't really make sense. But at the same time, someone who's going to hire me isn't going to hire my neighbor and vice versa because we're totally different people. And so, yeah, someone's hiring me to do a very big job for them. The most money most people spend in their lifetimes is in real
Right.
estate. But people hire me because that's who I am. And they get to know me as a personality and how my expertise in this business can help them throughout the process.
And what expertise do you bring? You talked about being transparent. You obviously are a good communicator. That's clear just with this introduction and us talking here and in our pre-talk before we jumped on as well. But what makes you different? Obviously, you have a different personality. Does it take a different skill set? I mean, what's the edge? What's the Bianca edge that you have? Because you don't have
I'm
competition because you are unique enough and you're obviously
right.
bringing that out.
I think that my past career has definitely worked to help in the sense of like develop some of my skill sets when it comes to just business in general. And my focus, I lead with education and strategy.
Okay.
So if we're going into transaction, the idea is we're not going to be surprised by anything because we've already talked about it. We've already talked about the different potential options that are going to occur throughout this transaction. And we have a plan for what's going to happen if XYZ occurs. So being ahead of that next step, they always say like 10 steps ahead. Like it
Right. Right.
really is what I'm doing in my job. I am constantly anticipating a problem that I need to fix. So I'm thinking of solutions before the problem ever occurs so that we can stop the problem before it ever occurs. And in real estate, problems happen. Most of the time, there's going to be something that happens
There's
throughout a
going to be something.
transaction.
Right. Yes.
And it's the idea of we're not scared of those problems because we've already talked through what we do in those situations.
So well prepped. And well, you
Exactly.
said education. You start with education, and that is preparation to
Right.
move into the looking at the transaction and being straight as to how the deal is going to go. You
And
know,
unfortunately, with media of real estate, you mentioned car salesmen. Real estate gets a bad rap, in media. And do I know real estate agents that make that generalization true? Yeah. I mean, every business is going to have someone who's like that.
don't name names. Don't name names,
Yeah,
please.
don't need to name names. But it's the understanding of the business and what happens in a real estate transaction, and that consumers just don't know what they don't know. And being able to provide that information of this is how it actually works, and this is how it works in San Francisco, because that changes
Right.
county to county, city to city, regulations and rules and what have you. And so it's understanding that gap between our knowledge base and the consumer knowledge base is pretty large.
That makes sense. So how do you start off the conversation with your client? You're like, all right, sit down. We need to set this straight. And you say that in a nice way, of course.
I
But
mean, I wanna know
where do you
them.
go?
So,
Right.
I try to get my clients to talk about themselves. I need to know what their goals are. I need to know how long they've been looking, what are some we're gonna talk about some of their wants versus needs and
Yeah.
compromises before we ever get into the idea of, like, what this transaction look like and how much money they wanna spend. Like, I need to have an idea of what they want. I will then check their idea of, "This is your perfect world. This is probably what your perfect world costs." Does that
Right.
make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
And if that doesn't align, we can then work and fine tune of what's their costs and how can we compromise into something that they'll still be happy for.
Right. Right. That's smart. Setting the right expectations. So you don't take that moment to go, we're going to fit you into your perfect world. If you can afford it or not, here we go.
Yeah.
I know you don't do that. We can tell, but
I mean, I would love that. I mean, that's,
well, of course, but you know,
but it's
it's got
not.
it's not realistic.
And yeah, at the end of the day, this is my job, but it's my client's money and it's my client's transaction. It's the home that they're going to live in for the most part. I mean, it's different perspective when it's investors that you're working
Right.
with.
Right.
But for homeowners, this is going to be their future for 10 plus years, potentially 5 to 10 years in that house. And I can do everything in my power to set them up and find them the right fit. But ultimately, it has to be their decision. Like, I'm not buying the house. So I
Right.
try to make it so that I'm not relying on my client's decisions. Like I'm not pushing them to make this offer. I'm setting them up to decide if this offer is right for them.
That makes perfect sense. That seems like the right way to do it. Interesting. Well, tell us about some interesting deal that you were a part of. Actually, do you have a nice war story you could share with us at this point? What do you think?
I mean, in what avenue kind of
Oh my gosh.
situation?
Okay. Wherever you want to go with that, Bianca, I think,
Real estate's interesting in the sense of like the different types of contracts that you can go through, whether that is first time home buyers, upsizing, probate, things like that. I've had situations where, the transaction's gonna cancel at the, ninth hour because we can't find a death certificate.
Oh my gosh.
And so the escrow company that we're working with is like, hey, we can't sign over, legally provide title insurance because we don't know if there's any beneficiaries. And,
Oh my God.
at that point, everyone's cleared contingencies. People have set moving dates. It's supposed to close in a few days, that kind of situation. And sometimes you can't anticipate those problems, but your team you work with can help you. I'm not the title and escrow expert. That's why we hire an escrow and title team to work with us.
Exactly.
So when you don't work with the right people, it can cause some friction. Then sometimes that's trial and error of finding the right people. And luckily in that transaction, we did close. I did call my trustee because it was a title company that I hadn't worked with. The other side had picked it. And I found a solution by getting a different title company who would take an affidavit instead of,
Oh, nice.
the death certificate.
Great solution. Great solution.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then the different title companies have different risk factors, that
Right.
whether they're going to insure someone based on those risk factors. So you got to find the right one, especially in San Francisco. I would say a lot of companies tend to lead with not wanting to take a lot of risk.
Yes. That naturally makes sense from their standpoint. That's not good for their long-term business because people won't go back to them, I wouldn't think, but
Right, right.
I don't know.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
I've also had horror stories of like, squatters in a property, San Francisco. I haven't personally dealt with a death in the house home, but there's multiple homes in San Francisco that are, someone died in the property or someone was murdered in the property or things like that. And with real estate that was built, sometimes over 100 years ago, you're going to have some crazy
It's gonna
stories.
happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. Does that have to be disclosed if someone just dies in the house, or is
It
that
does,
just
yes. So
yeah,
death is protected on certain degrees of how they died. But within 3 years of a death in the property, it has to be disclosed. The cause of death doesn't necessarily have to be disclosed unless you're getting into things like murder, but
so
natural
that's just a
causes like
box that's a box on the list of things. Was anyone murdered in the house? Yes, no.
it's an extra paperwork kind of situation. You got to disclose a little bit more, especially if there's media coverage to go along with something and like people know about it. But if it's a, natural death, it is protected. Their cause of death is protected in the sense of discrimination. So you're not disclosing cause of death for the most part. Although I'd say 90% of people will still ask.
Okay. And then what sorry, I didn't mean to go drill down into this. It was
I
really
know.
not the purpose. It's just interesting to me. So someone's died in the house, been murdered in the house. Do people go, no, I won't buy that house? Or do they just go, well, that's interesting, just good to know? I mean, are they
Absolutely. I mean, being in San Francisco, we're an extremely diverse city. There are a lot of cultures who won't buy a home for those types of scenarios just based on their religious or cultural background. I've also been a part of deals where we've brought in like a shaman to sage the place, during
right?
escrow, and things like that. So there are people who will work around, like it matters, but they'll work around it. And I've absolutely come across clients who will walk away from the property.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
It's
But
only within 3 years, though. So if a death
okay.
has occurred prior to that, it does not have to be disclosed.
Yeah, everyone has to get over it at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a house built in 1906, like chances are high.
Oh yeah, chances are 100%. I think pretty much for that time frame, just because people get old. I mean, there's all sorts of things that
Right,
happen.
right.
Interesting. Yeah, and so you have all the tools in your toolbox, all the people and professionals you work with, including shamans. So you've got to
Including
have
shamans. Yeah.
everybody
My vendor list
available.
is long.
Yes, because transactions do get complicated. Well, tell us about the market. What is going on in San Francisco in the real estate market?
I mean, San Francisco real estate market is extremely hot. Single family homes never took a drop, even when we saw, the larger scale economy having a harder time, longer days on market. We're definitely being pushed and powered by the AI boom, the back to office growth in downtown. In our financial district and in the tech world. In that same token, there's a lot of money in San Francisco.
Right,
Typically in San Francisco, people's down payments come in the stock market. So if the stock market is doing well, we got a lot of buyers out there. And if it's not doing well, then you tend to see it reflected in the buyer pool. In that, we also don't have enough inventory. So traditional supply and demand is
Right.
just going to be there. This year, and I've been saying it for a few years, like, now's the time, now's the time, now's the time. We're seeing condos rebound finally as well. So post COVID, our condo market significantly dropped. It kind of went back to like 2017 values in a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of properties. So it backtracked a lot because you were seeing like large scale appreciation in homes and in condos. And so it took a lot longer for some of those condos to rebound. And this year, we're seeing even condos be a super hot market, never as hot as single family homes, but it's still there. And I think that in particular is being driven by our really high rental market. Rents are out of control in the problem. I don't normally deal with rentals as an agent, but I have for some of my clients that are very good investors. I'll help them
Mhm.
rent a building. The last time I rented a building, I had 300 phone calls in 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like I had to turn my phone off and be like,
Right.
"Okay, like, I can't answer any phones." Like,
Next time I
it's
won't
just
use my cell phone. Right.
yeah, I'm never gonna put my own I'm putting my office phone number next time. I'm
Right.
not putting my cell
Yes.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Learn those
It's
lessons
kinda
fast.
crazy what's happening in the market, and it's good, it keeps me employed, but it also makes it difficult for buyer fatigue is high because you're seeing a lot of people lose out on offers, and because there's not a ton of inventory,
Right. It's
that
hard.
one person, you've got 7 offers on a property, one person wins, you got 6 people who didn't buy something. They're all
Right.
looking at the same thing. So it's like, chances are these same people are going offer to offer, and typically, you find the people who win have been in the market a little bit longer, and they're just sick of losing. So, I
They just
don't like
up
saying
their
this
price.
word overpay
Mhm.
because in my opinion, real estate's worth what you're gonna pay for it, but the winners typically overpay by 50 to 100,000, overpay in the
Mhm.
sense of that next offer because they're sick of losing and they're like, let's just do it. Let's make this one
Right.
ours. And that's typically what happens. And I usually tell my clients, if you listen to me, we'll win a house. But sometimes a client needs to lose a couple before they'll listen.
Right. It kind of humbles them,
Yeah.
and they see it firsthand. That makes perfect sense. Interesting. So you are involved with American Dream TV. Tell us about
hmm
this. Tell
Yeah.
us about this, Bianca.
American Dream TV is a new adventure for me, and I have been wanting to get into video for a while with my business. It's just another tool in this technology age of getting to know people, building those relationships. And so, American Dream TV and I partnered together to represent San Francisco, and especially a city that has such opinions about it. In a
Yes.
world where maybe media can be a little taxing in our lives, we want to bring positive media about our cities, about our communities, and really dive into the businesses, the people in the neighborhoods that make us want to live here. Why do I live in San Francisco? Why am I selling to these people who want to live in San Francisco? And so, utilizing American Dream TV to partner to showcase those reasons. And my every host in every city kind of does it a little differently. But my focus is really partnering with businesses and people. So, in things that I find passion in. It's always easier to talk about things that I find passion in. So, restaurants, distilleries, things that we can do outside, sports, music, all of these things that really bring culture to San Francisco. I'll be showcasing in episodes throughout the year of what's it like here, what's the culture, and who are these businesses.
So why do you like San Francisco?
Oh man, there's
Oh man,
so
here we
many
go.
reasons. There's so many reasons, and I'm from Northern California. Never lived in San Francisco before, but I'm from Monterey, which is about 2 hours south of here. And I lived in Southern California for about 10 years before I came back. And I kind of always knew when I was in Southern California that we were going to come back because our families are here.
Mhm.
But it was more of like, where were we? Are we going back to Monterey? Those kind of things. And we tried Monterey and we went back to Monterey for a little bit and then San Jose and
Right.
eventually ended up
Right.
here in San Francisco. And fun, the weather. I know a lot of people would complain about the weather sometimes, but I love that it's just mild. Today, however, it's 82 degrees outside, which is
Whoa.
a very hot day for San
Right.
Francisco.
Yes, it is.
But it's normally like 65 degrees, sunny. You got a breeze on the water. Bring a jacket with you wherever you go, but like wear layers. There's always something to do. I'm a big go out to restaurant person, and you could probably go to a new restaurant multiple times a day and never repeat yourself.
That's an amazing thought.
Like
Yes.
ever. You would never have to repeat a restaurant. Like I don't know. like to infinity, in my opinion. And then I'm a big sports fan. So being so accessible to our sporting teams, the Giants, the Warriors, unfortunately, the Niners are a little farther away, but it is a big part of my life. And with mine and my husband's jobs tied into the city, how much we enjoy being here. We walk everywhere. Like, yes, I drive a lot for work, but as soon as work is over, I'm walking or I'm jumping on the bus and things like
Right.
that. So it's just the access. It's the culture and the access in the city.
No, that sounds great. You're a perfect you're the perfect person to show people around the city through the show. So I think that's fantastic.
That's the
And
goal. And again, there are people who like different passions in San Francisco. And I hope to showcase other, event and groups like nonprofits and things like that that are, tied into not just the fun experience of the city, but like the emotional experience of the city as well, and like the give back side of the culture. So there'll be some different changes throughout.
yes, interesting. All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. So where do we find you there? I mean, just look up American Dream TV and
Yeah, American
that's it?
Dream TV is hosted across multiple avenues. My first episode is actually coming out in a couple weeks. So June 20th, my first episode drops. And that's going to be with Gold Bar Whiskey, a distillery which is on Treasure Island, partnership with Joe Montana. He is not in the episode, unfortunately, but
You should,
we
yeah.
talk about him a lot. But HGTV and Travel Channel hosts American Dream TV, but you can also find it on streaming platforms. Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Amazon, and then they also have their own streaming American Dream TV. And then you'll be able to find it on YouTube as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Or you know what? Follow me on social media because I'm going to post it.
There, there we go. Where do we find you on social media? Let's just go there right now.
Yeah, I have a YouTube, Bianca Sells the Bay. I think that's what it is. And my Instagram is Bianca Kaufman Realtor. Kaufman is my maiden name. So you
Spelled
can
how?
find that there. I post a lot of just experiential of San Francisco online, as well as the quirky side of some of the not so selling sunset side of real estate, the getting dirty side of behind the scenes.
Interesting. All right. I like that whole idea. So we go there and what do we find on that other side of real estate?
I mean, I can't tell you. The first question I always get when I'm in real estate is what's the market like? And the second one is, do you watch and then insert Selling Sunset, Selling Manhattan, whatever those shows that, people are so popular. And they're like, is it like that? And I'm like, not even a little bit. Is it like that? Not even slightly. It's like I'm crawling through bushes to find lock boxes. I'm cleaning houses. I'm climbing fences when things are being locked out. Like, it is definitely not glamorous of a job. I also work all the time. And I'm very grateful for my husband and his ability to go with the flow. But my phone is kind of glued to my body of if we're at dinner, I am going to pick up a 5-minute phone call. And if we're on vacation, I probably do still work a little bit, but my job paid for that vacation. So let's keep going.
Right.
And so there is not too much glamour involved. Yes, I see some gorgeous houses. I do some fun things and I meet some great people. But I'd say that's kind of where the glamour stops in real estate.
Everything else is work and
Yeah,
you just expect you just drive around in your Mercedes and just point to houses and write checks or have people
right.
write checks.
I
That's it.
always tell people that real estate definitely made me go get a therapist.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely changes your world a little bit,
A
but
little
it's
bit.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So along those lines, you've had all these different careers. If you were to go back and tell your younger self, maybe not the eighth grade person, but maybe even
Mhm.
like the 20-year-old, what advice would you give yourself based on your experiences now?
Don't be so hard on yourself and don't classify your self worth with your job. I don't know if I would change anything I did,
Nice.
but I would maybe take a little less emotion in it. And I had to learn that in real estate too. When you get started, especially as a business owner in sales, I wasn't salaried, don't know where your paycheck's coming. You're taking a risk, especially jumping into a new career. At 30 years old was a tough thing. Of like, I'm an established job and why am I changing changing my career
All right.
180%. And so understanding that your successes and failures in the business, just roll with them. And the failures make you better. You learn. My business partner, who's the broker at Park North, he's been in the business for 30 years and he still learns something new every transaction. And like he makes mistakes as well. Like it's, you just know that it's going to happen in the business. And I would have told myself, even in my past career, that to just not take it so emotional because you'll be fine.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It really didn't kill you and it's not going
No,
to. Right.
yeah,
Even though you thought you were going to die at the time because it was such a bad situation.
right. You're
Yeah.
panicking. It also has allowed me to, I think, be a better agent for my clients because they are panic. It's their first time through these situations. So their initial instinct is usually to panic. And because I've,
Right.
for the most part, anticipated some of the things that could happen, I'm not panicking. So it's like my job is to take their stress away and be like, it's okay, we got it. Like, and
Show your
even when you
confidence.
have to
Yeah.
cancel a contract, it's not the end of the world. Like, let's do it. We move on. We create protections for you in order to cancel that contract. That's why they're
Mhm.
there. And we just move forward from it.
That's interesting. So, thinking to the professional side, what advice would you give, a real estate agent starting right now in any
Starting right
market?
now,
Yeah.
join a team,
Yeah.
which is not what I did. I
Do what I
definitely,
say, not what I do. Okay, whatever.
yeah,
But yeah.
I definitely attempted to do this solo. I'm still technically solo, but I have partnerships that, I'm not alone in this anymore. And I was successful because of the people around me in a non traditional team sense. But join a team, learn everything, show up to the events you don't know what you're showing up to, show up to the classes you don't know what you're showing up to. My very first transaction in real estate was because I showed up to an event and another agent gave me the client. I was brand new. I was like maybe 2 months old agent. And that was my very first client in this business. So I wouldn't have ever got it if I was embarrassed to show up to this event because I didn't know anybody and I didn't know what I was talking about. So just start practicing and start doing it. I think this is the kind of business that it is difficult to only be half in. And
Yes.
that of all of your education of, understanding what to do, meeting people. Again, that's going back to this. This is a business of relationships, not just client relationships, but real estate agents, businesses. I'd say most of my clients have come from that third tier relationship, not that first tier relationship. It's my sorority sister's cousin who needs help.
Right.
It's not necessarily the first people you meet that you're working with. It's they learned and trusted you that the next time they talk to someone, you want them to be their friend says, "Yeah, I think we're thinking of moving. Oh my god, I have to introduce you to Bianca."
Yes. That's
Like
perfect.
that's what we don't know. And that's what goes back to American Dream TV. It's I'm working with Gold Bar Whiskey to put this episode out to talk about what's great, and that's not just to showcase to the consumer why it's great. Go to the business, but all the people I'm meeting while putting that episode together, like that's my return on relationship when it comes to this, opportunity.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Awesome. We're going to get wrapped up here in a second. Any final words? Anything we didn't cover? Anything else we need to know about Bianca?
I mean, I think that one time, a good question that going back to that, like, what would I recommend? My chiropractor's front desk asked me one time, what did they need? What do I have to study to be a real estate agent? And I started laughing because my college degree is in physical therapy. From college, I became a fashion stylist and now
Okay.
I'm selling real estate. So it's not about doing all the perfect steps to get there, but just trying different things and not necessarily saying no to an opportunity before you know what's happening.
Nice. I like that. And we're going to leave it at that. So thank you, Bianca, for joining us. We appreciate it. And thanks to our uh, audience for watching today on Technologies Now, the Business Edge podcast. And if you like what you saw, like us, follow us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, David.